Greetings, fellow fiends. Come, sit by my side, as tonight we peer into the dark. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have any answers. In fact, I'm hoping you will have some for me. All I can tell you is that the thing sat across the kitchen table from me is not my wife. It's her face, it's her voice. Oh, it's not her. It's hard to explain, so I will start from the last time I know it was my wife. It happened last night. We had been to watch a show in the next city, A King's Tale. The theatre company had pulled off an amazing production which we both enjoyed. It was around 10 p.m. when we left, waiting around to congratulate the cast. As we got back to the car park, I chose to drive and we headed towards the motorway. About a mile into our drive, we started noticing signs for a diversion. As we followed the signs, the city quickly turned into farms and country roads. Another few miles in, I made a passing comment saying I thought we may possibly be lost. Mary just smiled, pulling out her phone. Neither of us were worried at this time, as we knew we were heading in the right general direction of home at least. Mary tried to get a map up on her phone, but her overall signal was very weak. I said it probably wouldn't matter anyway, because as long as we were seemingly going the right way, we would pick up some signs soon enough, more than likely. This was a diversion after all. So, to pass the time, we began talking about the show we had literally just seen. Mary reminiscing about the funniest moments and laughing before moving on to more serious ones. All the while focusing on the increasingly narrow and dark road, I would interject with my own thoughts and best moments. About 30 minutes into the diversion, we had gotten to a part of the road heavily wooded on both sides. The only light now was from the headlights. Even then, I had to switch on the high beam. I was about to comment more on a particular part of the show that I found amusing when, in a split second, something I couldn't tell you what, other than it was large and dark in shape, darted in front of the car. I slammed on the brakes, but I hit the thing, and the car span in the process. After we'd stopped, both, of course, obviously shocked, I turned to Mary, after what felt like an hour of staring into the night. Aside from her own shock, she assured me she was fine, not hurt at all. The car, however, was not so lucky. Blinking lights now coming from what felt like everywhere inside the car, and a hissing sound becoming louder. So, I believe now more out of instinct than anything else, I turned off the engine and put on the hazard lights. Just one more light to add to the symphony now appearing on the dashboard, before slowly getting out to see what had actually happened. After a few seconds of collecting my thoughts, it dawned on me. We hit something. We hit something big, hard. Scanning around, fear creeping in, as Mary got out as well. She began to help search the road for whatever it was. A large deer, maybe? A wolf? There was nothing. There was no sign of anything being on or around anywhere we were. I was still scanning around when I heard Mary's voice, soft and fearful. "John," she whispered. Looking back, I saw the shock on her face. Moving towards her, I saw all too clearly why she was afraid. The whole right wing of the car was, well, gone. Metal strips that held the bumper were all that remained, twisted and snapped. The light was working, but it was hanging down and smoke was now rising from the crumpled bonnet. No deer did this. I used the dangling headlight to get a better view of our surroundings. Whatever it was, it must be hurting badly. If the car was anything to go by, at least. Still, the light showed nothing. And I mean absolutely nothing. No sign of blood, not even the sound of something being wounded. There was just silence and the night ahead. Mary by now was trying desperately to get a signal on her phone. I checked mine as well, but it was the same as her. I got nothing. Both still a little shaken, but we were okay. We decided to wait and hang fire for a while to see if another car, like us, had just followed the diversion. We decided on this rather than just going wandering in the dark in an unfamiliar place. It was then a sudden noise made us both silent. Neither of us sure exactly what it was, but thinking the obvious, the thing we hit, it could now be heard. We listened intently for where it came from. "There," Mary whispered, as a slight noise came from what sounded like the edge of the road a little way ahead. "Yes, I heard it too," I replied, and we began to walk slowly in the direction it came from, or so we thought. I called out to whatever it was. "Hello? Hello, can you hear me?" We had walked a short way ahead of the car, both still looking around for this thing. Surely if there was a noise, there would be some movement and we could see about helping it. But now the silence was deafening. But there, movement. Both now looking harder at the edge of the road for what moved. And we saw shapes. Hundreds of shapes. I don't know how else to describe them other than shadows, a mass of solid black against the night. "Get back in the car," I said to Mary, fear now rising greatly, and she did so. Turning myself, I ran back to the car, throwing the driver's side door open, praying the car would even still run. In the fear of trying to get the car to at least start, I heard Mary's door slam shut. I glanced briefly above the dash. Oh, I wish I hadn't. The masses were now oozing out from the trees into the road. Oh, there it was. The car roared back into life. I turned to make sure that Mary was okay, but Mary? Where did she go? I heard her get into the car. Frantically, I looked all around. Maybe in panic she got into the back. But she wasn't in the car. Looking out of every window and not seeing any sight of her, I had no choice. I had to get out. I had to find her. My hand already on the door, I turned to get back out of the car, and my eyes caught the full image of what was happening outside the windscreen, and I just froze. Oh God, what was that? A black so dense as the masses fell into each other, growing, pulsing towards me. A rush of emotions washing over me like a wave. Fear, emptiness, despair, loneliness. This hunger was devoid of all life, set to swallow me whole. And I wanted more than anything to run, find Mary and hide. We had to get away. We had to stop it from consuming the world around us. But all I could do was close my eyes and pray. Oh, please stop. Please stop. Still praying, I reopened my eyes. The light of morning, stinging them, making me blink rapidly for a few moments, and birds were singing. Okay, what the hell is going on? I know I haven't slept. It feels like I've been awake for days. I certainly don't feel rested. My body feels drained. I can't have been asleep. What was going on? What, I was home? This was my bedroom. My bed. I've never felt confusion like this before. And without knowing it in that moment, it was about to get a whole lot worse. I placed my feet on the floor with my head in my hands, trying to make sense of everything. When I realised I was still dressed. Wait, no. Was I wearing pyjamas? Do I even own pyjamas? I don't ever remember wearing them before. Glancing at my bedside clock, the world already making no sense whatsoever, I saw the time. It was 8:07 a.m. Where the hell did the last 7 to 8 hours go? But then it hit me. Mary. I turned quickly to her side of the bed, but it was empty. Like it had already been made. In fact, for her, it was actually a little bit too neat. Seeing her side empty, I moved quickly to the bedroom door. Opening it though, I heard music. Listening, it was coming from the kitchen. So hurriedly I ran down the stairs, taking them two at a time, reaching the kitchen door and pushing it open. And there she was. Mary. Looking as well as she always did. One slightly odd thing though, she was holding pans. What are you doing? I asked. Making breakfast, she smiled. And I just laughed. You see, we've been together now for 17 years, and the best I can say about her cooking is that, oh God, was she a terrible cook. And I mean awful. This woman has burned air before now. She burned down half the kitchen once just making toast. After that, she refused to cook at all, so it was actually me that made all of our meals. It was then I really noticed her face. That smile. It was empty. And she was looking at me, but she wasn't actually looking at me, if that makes any sense at all. Her stance was playful, but this wasn't quite right. Something in my gut was stirring. She proceeded to order me to sit down in the playful tone that claimed she was making breakfast, and turned back to carry on. I sat as she began to busy herself with the stove. Wait, no. Dancing. One of them daft teeny pop songs was playing, the kind she always made fun of. But not today. She was dancing away as the stove was hissing and bubbling with 3 or 4 pans. After a short while, she plated up and dropped a full English breakfast down with condiments for us both, joining me at the table. I just chuckled again. Wow, when did you learn to cook? I asked. I was instantly sorry I'd said anything, because oh God, that look. It was so intensely harsh. And she just snapped. I have always cooked this way. And then instantly back to playfully sweet. Now eat up, with that smile. That smile was so wrong, so empty. This was all wrong. This woman had been by my side for 17 long, but good years. She had never barked at me like this before, especially not over something this trivial. It wasn't until after we'd finished, it was actually a damn good breakfast, that I spoke again. How did we get home? I asked her, which earned me another glare, though the smile remained. What do you mean? She replied. And as calmly as I could, I continued. How did we get home after the accident? In what I can only describe as a sickly sweet voice, she said, What accident? Looking at her in total confusion now, all I could state was, the accident, last night. We hit something. This time, she didn't just snap, she snarled. There was no accident last night. We were here all night. This was now scaring me. There was so much hatred in her voice, and right out of nowhere. I wasn't sure what to do in the wake of that glare, so I just laughed it off, saying, Oh well, it must have just been a nightmare then. You know what I'm like first thing in the morning. She glared at me for a few more moments, but then just as quickly as anything, that smile was back. And this sickly sweet, of course, as she finished the last of her cup of tea. Really not sure what to do at this point, I just glanced down, looked at the pyjamas, and said, I think I'll go and shower and get dressed, standing up and walking into the living room. Though as the window looked out onto our driveway, I thought I'll just walk past and see if there is actually any damage to the car. I just needed to see. But as I approached the window, she rushed in front of me again and snarled. You said you were going to the shower. I am, I replied. I was just going to check the weather. Why? We are not going anywhere today. Her voice was so filled with malice, and I really didn't know the source of this. But not wanting to start an argument, I shrugged and made my way to the stairs. After all, she was being really unpredictable at the moment. I started towards the bathroom and she followed me, standing the other side of the door as I went in, and stayed there until I started the water. But before I got into the shower, I decided to just have a quick glance out of the bathroom window as it overlooked ours and the neighbour's backyard. Things, though, looked normal. I could see my neighbour's kids playing in their backyard with their dog. The weather was clear and actually nothing seemed off. So that means it's one of us. As I stood in the shower, the hot water just running down my head and over my face, everything was going around my mind. The show, the accident. I know that accident happened. I'm certain of it. But I have no proof. I just know my gut is screaming at me that something is wrong. Oh, I just don't know what. And then there's Mary. She is acting so strangely. Was it just an off day, maybe? I just don't know. Oh God, I hope all of this starts to make sense soon. Mind fully wandering at this point, I opened the bathroom door and she was stood there. My clothes for the day in hand. Here, she said, thrusting them into my chest. Thank you, I said, closing the door. I dressed and went to leave, and she was still standing there, looking straight at me, smiling, that unsettling smile. With nothing else to do, I just smiled back and made my way down to the kitchen again, with her behind me. Halfway down the stairs, I caught her reflection in the hallway mirror. The only way I can describe her expression while staring into the back of my head was murderous. So I moved a little more quickly into the kitchen, so she wasn't behind me anymore, and sat back down at the kitchen table. She sat opposite me, still staring at me like she was trying to see through me or something, with that unnerving smile painted on her face again. Needing now to just do something, I asked her what she thought about The King's Tale, the show from last night. Her response, "It was okay, I guess," set off explosions in my head. She was an amateur critic. She loved talking about things like this. She raved about that show. And yet, to hear that, you would think she'd never really seen it properly. But, more to the point, if we didn't go anywhere last night, how could she answer either way? Mind racing, I decided to test her further. I started talking about work and totally fabricating absolutely everything. Wrong names, wrong places, even lying about the job itself. She nodded and agreed to everything as if it was a normal conversation. And the whole time that stupid smile was plastered on her face. Not once did she call me on this crap. And she knows full well what I do. She knows my boss. She's even good friends with his wife. I'm now at a total loss. I quickly made a grab for my laptop, stating, "Oh, yes, that reminds me. I just need to send an email to work real quick." And she just continued to smile at me while glancing over the top of the laptop. I had to email someone. This is not my wife. It looks like her. It sounds like her. But this thing is not my Mary. I just caught the reflection of its murderous eyes over my shoulder. I didn't even hear it move. It's behind me. Oh God, please help me. Well, you do find all kinds of dark when you go wandering. Thank you all for once again joining me, and until we meet again, do take care now, won't you?